I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting to sit there for the full 40 minutes with no Fire Emblem news, just like last time, but then it started, and right off the bat, Fire Emblem Warriors. Nice. I would have loved the mainline game, but Warriors 2, I'll take it. I sunk countless hours into the original Fire Emblem Warriors, despite all the reasons not to. In this video, I'm going to briefly give my thoughts on the trailer we got and the rest of the direct, and maybe spread a little bit of the pro Warriors propaganda. So, I was wrapping up my stream last night. Before the direct, I was playing some Platinum Randomizer with Bismix, and I was having major issues with my stream stability that no matter what I did, I could not fix. So I asked one of my friends who was going to watch the direct with, Speedy Hawk, if he could stream it instead, but it was kind of last minute, so we weren't fully up and ready when the direct started. And you know how it goes with these things, when you're fully prepared for something in advance, it's completely overkill. But the one time you're not, they opened with Fire Emblem of all things. Thanks Nintendo, very cool. But it's a Fire Emblem Warriors sequel that I honestly didn't think was going to happen, if ever, anytime soon. I think most of us were expecting another remake or a mainline game, but nope, Fire Emblem 3 hopes. My first thought when seeing the trailer was that graphically, it looks more polished than Three Houses and the original Warriors. My actual first thought was, this is gorgeous, but then I unfortunately remembered that both Three Houses and Warriors looked great too at first. And then as you played them more, you start noticing things like the marketplace, JPEGs, and the frequent frame drops. So my first impression is positive, but Koei Tecmo's track record on this front is generally that the first impression doesn't last, if that makes sense. But hey, for now though, it looks pretty good. I also think it's funny that we've come full circle in the Warriors engine. They made Warriors, and then they made Three Houses with the Warriors engine. And now they've made a Warriors game with presumably Three Houses assets with the Warriors engine. That's pretty funny to me as well. This trailer is only 2 minutes long, and there's only so much more to speculate on. You got the usual mix of vague voice-over lines for trailers that could mean literally anything depending on the context.
I know you are prepared to do whatever that you must.
There's speculations of this maybe being the golden route, kind of like what Revelations was for Fates. But there is this shot that indicates that at the very least in this timeline, Edelgard is marching on Garreg Mach. So at the very least, I think this conflict that takes place in Three Houses between Edelgard and every other party is still happening. If the original Warriors is anything to go by, I would honestly just expect this game to string together random plot points of Three Houses at a faster pace without as much glue in between, because that was basically what the original Warriors did, only with more FE games mixed in. Speaking of which, depending on how much you like Three Houses and its characters, this trailer might be a disappointment to you since it seems to feature only Three Houses. I think that's fair. The last Warriors game had a similar disappointment going on, focusing really hard on Awakening and Fates, with a little bit of Shadow Dragon sprinkled in every now and then. I still really enjoyed it, even though at the time these were my least favorite Fire Emblem titles by a mile, but I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel here. The original Warriors did have Celica and Lyn added late into developments. Granted, they're post-game characters unlocked in history mode, so they're not really relevant other than that, but at least they were playable. And I would not be surprised to see someone like Ike or Roy turn up for this one, especially considering these two were explicitly named in this interview with the developers as being saved for a sequel. Of course, plans can change, they might not make it in at all. The focus is clearly on Three Houses, and yeah, that sucks if you were hoping for, say, Alm or Ephraim or Hector or Titania, but there's some hope there. That said, I'm personally not too bothered by these details. I know I enjoyed the original Warriors despite its lack of versatility in the cast. It's just a really fun button masher. It's a nice stress relief while waiting for something better. One thing I find amusing about the original Warriors game is that there's this huge contrast between the effort put into writing a sensible story, almost none, and the effort put into presenting that story through voice acting. It's like night and day. It makes me so confused about exactly how seriously they take this. Now don't get me wrong, I really appreciate full voice acting. It brings all the characters to life. But because the original Warriors story is clearly just a string of references to the main series, I guess I sound really ungrateful here, because in the end it's just a sign of them putting some love into the game. But I find that contrast interesting to point out at least. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. In the end, these things only matter so much as they impact how enjoyable these games are. If you've never played FE Warriors or Warriors games in general, Mozu games in general, you might wonder how a game can be that fun when it's so unlike what Fire Emblem is and seemingly so button mashy. But, you know, it's just It's just fun, mindless stress relief. The game is stupid. You play it because you like seeing characters do flashy animations while cutting through dozens of enemies, with satisfying sound effects and killer soundtrack on top. That's the appeal. That might sound strange, but when you think about it, I don't think it's too different from the kind of enjoyment you get out of going around in like Legend Arceus, catching a bunch of Pokemon. By the way, I still need to play that game from the beginning, and I don't really have thoughts on that game worth turning into a video right now, in case you were wondering. Now, as for the rest of the directs, I didn't see anything that made me want to go out and buy it, like, right away. I saw some things that I thought were cool, maybe interesting to try, and I'm always happy for fans of other franchises to get something they've been longing for, like an official release of Earthbound. Like, how long have people been banging for that? I enjoyed Kirby. It's a good reminder that I still need to finish playing Portal. I still need to finish downloading and trying Triangle Strategy. I like occasionally stepping out of my Fire Emblem bubble, but I just can't do it too much for the sake of my channel. YouTube hates it when I do it. But sometimes I like to say screw it and do it anyway, and if nothing else, I can play these games off screen. I'm sorry for not having deeper thoughts on this, but I'm not an experienced game critic or analyst or even an experienced player of games outside of certain few franchises. I can tell you what I enjoy and what I enjoy looking at, and that's often where it ends unless I do a really deep dive. From what I've seen, this direct,
it is a little something for everyone,
and I'm happy for that. That's my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know.